We believe in making people happy with coffee. It's a mission statement crafted by our founders, a mantra that extends beyond the cafe bar and kitchen counter and into communities both at home and afar. It's a promise to do all that we can to build a better world, to influence positive, meaningful change in the lives of many, working tirelessly to preserve our planet and empower our communities. As purveyors of premium coffee, we are committed to uplifting and protecting the regions around the world that we source from. It's these regions who are often hardest hit by economic strife and climate change, among many other issues. Through responsible sourcing practices, investment in infrastructure and education, and direct communication with coffee producers, we aim to improve and uphold the well-being of coffee-growing communities who contribute so much to our industry and our culture. We work to do so through projects like the Haiti Coffee Academy, which offers education and training programs for Haitian farmers, and through our work within Burundi, contributing a portion of our coffee sales to directly aid in improving the region's infrastructure, from supplying additional livestock to increasing access to healthcare for local farmers and their families. We believe that fair treatment and fair compensation for coffee producers can have a profound impact on communities at origin. That's why we partner with like-minded importers who ensure that coffee producers are paid a premium. That's also why we prioritize the purchase of certified coffees, which give our team independent assurances that our coffee sources instill friendly farming practices, that fair prices are paid to coffee farmers, and that the coffee we purchase is environmentally sound. As for the environment, our founders are outdoor adventurers who deeply care about leaving a healthy planet for future generations. This dedication to preserving our planet is in our DNA, and we are committed to sustainability at our cafes, roasteries, and warehouse facilities. In our cafes, we have discontinued the use of plastic straws and introduced strawless sip-through lids for all to-go cold drinks, a measure that saves 2.5 million straws a year from ending up in landfills and oceans. At our roasting facilities, we compost 1 million pounds of coffee grounds each year to divert additional waste from landfills. Our warehouse facilities also switched from fluorescent to LED lighting to conserve energy. As for our coffee packaging, we're proud to say that our 12-ounce coffee boxes are 100% recyclable. And now, using new Neo technology, our coffee bags can be converted into reusable energy. All of these tactics are part of our continuous effort to preserve our planet. But we also believe that though a better world starts with a healthier planet, it's also sustained by equity and empowered communities. La Colombe is committed to building, strengthening, and healing communities where we live and work. We do so by partnering with organizations who are tirelessly fighting to uplift the voices of the unheard and make a tangible difference. Through limited edition coffee partnerships, we've contributed over $250,000 to organizations like Everytown for Gun Safety, the National Park Foundation, the ACLU, Vote.org, No Kid Hungry, and the Loveland Foundation, among many others. We're also committed to supporting our community in other ways, from providing coffee donations to frontline workers during the pandemic, to cleaning up local parks near our cafes. At La Colombe, we are unafraid to advocate for causes that strengthen and heal our communities and empower those working to change our world for the better. We know that nothing is ever finished. The work is ever-changing yet persistent, and our hearts and minds remain steadfast in our commitment to advocating for equity, empowering our communities, and caring for our planet. Because we know a cup of coffee can go a long way towards creating a better world. And we're excited to meet the challenge.
Good morning, and welcome to our 4th annual Limitless Potential Breakfast. My name is Colleen Kelly Howard, and I am the Executive Director for Girls on the Run Philadelphia. Today we are excited to share stories of tenacity from our past year, as well as our dreams for the future of our program and the girls that we serve across the city of Philadelphia. Last week, I was able to visit a Girls on the Run team at King Sessing Rec Center. The theme of our practice was expressing our emotions. At the previous practice, girls had learned that emotions can be comfortable and uncomfortable, and that everyone experiences them differently. At our practice, we were learning to use I feel statements to express these emotions. As I participated in the lesson alongside the girls, I started to think about the significance of them learning these lessons and skills at such an early age and at this particular moment in time. I think we could all use some of these tools as we emerge from the pandemic and start to think about the emotions we've been feeling, both those that are comfortable and uncomfortable. As our keynote speaker, Ronnie, will tell us, it's important to acknowledge both. As we start to think about our post-pandemic future as an organization, we know it's also important for us to think about our challenges and the silver linings of the past year. With no physical access to the schools, new partnerships and innovation enabled us to bring the program to the girls continuously throughout this year. Parks and recreation centers and neighborhood parks hosted 30 teams over the course of the spring and fall season. We were also fortunate that we had a number of community members who had newfound flexibility in their work from home schedules and chose to share their time and talent with our girls as volunteer coaches. I know that we have a number of these coaches in our audience this morning, and on behalf of our girls, our staff, and our board, I want to say thank you. And as we begin our program this morning, I would like to acknowledge the partnerships that enabled us to bring you this event today. First, La Colombe. Through their support, we were able to send mugs and coffee to our first 150 registered guests. We're also grateful for the support of our presenting sponsor, Nordstrom Cares, as well as the Sheet Metal Workers Union. Their combined support will enable 3 teams of girls at scholarship sites to experience Girls on the Run next fall. And finally, we are thrilled to welcome back for a 4th year, Exude. Exude has been a partner since this event began in 2018, and we are grateful for their ongoing support. And with that, it is my pleasure to introduce Carla Chin. Carla is Exude's Director of Total Well-Being. In her role, she helps her clients design holistic, integrative, and inclusive well-being programs. This morning, we're lucky to have Carla here to kick us off with an exercise in preparation for the keynote address by Ronnie Polineski. Welcome, Carla.
Good morning, everybody. Enjoying my cup of tea here in my La Colombe mug. So thank you for that, Girls on the Run. Wanted to kick off the event with a positivity boosting activity. I also wanted to acknowledge that this month is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so the theme for this event, is really being about resilience, boosting positivity and, bouncing back during times of struggle. And we've all lived through a very challenging year. And sometimes it could feel as if there's not much to be positive about. And so this activity that I'm going to share with you is called savoring. It's a scientific evidence-based intervention. And what we found in research is that practicing remembering happy or meaningful life events and attempting to replay them will actually help to reinforce positive emotions, right? It boosts resilience and it buffers against depression. So we're going to do that in real time today. So hopefully you're willing to engage. As far as why it works, it helps to relieve any current stress. It helps to refocus our brain. And what's interesting is even though we're focusing on something that may have happened in the past, our brain doesn't know the difference in terms of when it happened, right? So if you're thinking about something that happened 10 years ago or a week ago that was meaningful or brought a smile to your face, for example, our brain doesn't actually know that it happened that long ago. So this is something that I personally like to use when days just feel like it's filled with negativity or there's just a bunch of challenges getting thrown my way. I kind of go to the vault of memories and say, well, what can I recycle, right? What can I relive and practice as a self-care strategy for really helping rewire my brain for positivity? So here it goes. What we're going to do, there's 2 steps, right? So first step is to think about one recent or long ago memory that brought you a sense of meaning, maybe brought a smile to your face. Maybe it was the happiest memory of your life, right, to date. So I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to just focus on one specific event and experience. Give you another few seconds. It could have been as recent as this morning. Okay, so step 2, I have my timer ready here as well. I'm going to ask you to relive that experience. I'm going to give you a whole minute to take a trip back to the past and relive it as much as possible. But here's the thing, rather than just thinking about it and playing it in your mind, I'm going to invite you to engage as many senses as possible. And so if it was food related, just imagine like what were your taste buds experiencing in that moment. If you're outside, probably hiking perhaps, or at the park, like and there was a wind blowing on your face, like just imagine the senses of that. If it's touch related, right, all of those senses as much as possible, because the more emotion, the more senses we engage, the more emotion we can experience, the better the rewiring can be as far as boosting that positivity. So here we go. Let's do a countdown, 5 seconds before we do a minute. 5, 4, 3, 2, and go ahead and relive your experience. Okay, so just in the next few seconds, just come back to the present moment. And hopefully that felt good to you, right? That felt good to relive that experience. Would love to get some chat activity happening in terms of what you thought about. If anyone wants to unmute, I'm sure we can do that as well, I think, and hear some voices. But at the minimum, we'd love to just see, what did you think about during that minute of savoring? I love it. Wedding day. I was waiting for the wedding day one or the birth of a child one, because that tends to happen a lot as far as these experiences. And so as as you're populating in the chat, I just wanted to highlight a couple of other notes and ways that you can use this activity. What we did was reliving an experience in the past. Now, savoring can also happen in the moment. And a lot of times we don't realize there's so many opportunities, just simple opportunities throughout the day where we can pause and just tune in and be present. So it could be lunchtime, you may be just having a really delicious meal. And most of the time we're on their computer or multitasking, and we didn't even have the experience. So our brain's like, did I even eat anything? Maybe your taste buds didn't even get the full experience. So even just taking moments to savor present experiences can help boost that positivity. Other ways that you can use this tool, I know on my phone, I have an album called Happy Memories. And so a lot of times if, just again, I'm boosting positivity or before bed or in the morning, I'll go to that album and it's just, curated pictures of, moments in my life, whether it's with my kids or pre-kids, travels, and it just, really helps to boost that positivity. So hopefully this is something that you'll be able to use and also share with others. So let me see if anything here in the chat. Love it, love it, love it. So please pay it forward, share it with your family and friends. You could even do a family savoring activity. It was so simple. I timed it for a minute. You could do it longer. You can even do it for 10 seconds if that's all you have as far as time. So I'll end with just some gratitude expression here. Thank you so much to Girls on the Run for having us again here for the 4th year. It's an honor and pleasure to share this intervention with you. And I hope you all stay well, and be kind to each other.
Thank you, Carla. And now it is my honor to introduce you to Coach Kyra and GOTR girl Anaya, who will share with all of you what Girls on the Run means to them. Kyra Pullen has served as a rec leader with Philadelphia Parks and Recreation for 2 years. Her job calls on her to engage with the youth of Philadelphia on a personal level. Whether she is leading after-school programming, creating educational videos for YouTube, coaching soccer for success, or leading her Girls on the Run team, Kyra's favorite part of her job is seeing the impact she's making on the lives of young people across our city. Kyra has coached Girls on the Run for 2 seasons, both during COVID. She has a degree in kinesiology from Temple University, and when she is not at work or coaching, enjoys spending time with her husband and 2 cats. Anaya Winfield is a 5th grade student at Northwood Academy Charter School in the Northwood Frankfort section of Philadelphia. Anaya has participated in Girls on the Run for 2 seasons, but has been unable to complete her 5K due to COVID. She plans to change that next season. Anaya says that from Girls on the Run, she has learned to never give up on herself and that good things happen when you are good to other people. When Anaya is not virtual learning, she enjoys spending time with her siblings, playing outside, and watching TV. Last month, Anaya was recognized as Student of the Month for her whole grade. Go, Anaya!
Good morning, family, friends, colleagues, and my Girls on the Run organization. My name is Kyra Pullen, and I'm a recreation leader for Philadelphia Parks and Recreation. Before I go into my Girls on the Run story, I would like to share some of my background. I grew up in Bergen County, New Jersey, with my single mother and my brother. Growing up, my mom did everything possible to make sure we had everything we wanted in life, and we did. But what she stressed the most to us was getting a good education and giving back to others, which leads to my current job as a rec leader. For the record, I ran track in high school, and I loved the social aspect of being on the team, but not the actual running part. So when I initially thought about being a Girls on the Run coach, I wondered how I'd be able to keep up with the girls and how I'd get them to like running as an activity. Then I realized, just like me, some girls will like to run and others would like to be on the team. As long as we help one girl find her potential, she has a good time and feels more comfortable, that's what matters the most. I also wanted to coach Girls on the Run because of the curriculum. The organization does a great job of making it easy for a first-time coach. The curriculum gave me confidence, and confidence is very important in coaching. The confidence in the process, confidence in knowing that the girls can comprehend the lesson plans, and confidence in how I deliver them. My recreation center is located in the Frankfort, Northwood area of the city. At Simpson Recreation Center, we service families similar to the one I grew up in, low to middle income families. Most of the activities we host at the center focus on basketball and male-dominated sports. At first, that seemed like what the community wanted, but in reality, the community needed a program that catered to girls as well. Girls on the Run allowed that to happen. Today, girls who come to my rec center grow up with the pressures of social media and living in a melting pot of a city that's become more violent. The girls I coach have to grow up faster than we did. I realize that sometimes they do not understand how to be kids anymore. Girls on the Run helped me bring that back to them. Our season was going great until COVID hit. In the middle of our spring season, I was telling the girls to never give up. Then, I had to give up on our dream of going to the 5K without giving them any closure. Last fall, when the Girls on the Run program coordinator asked to see if I wanted another program under the COVID guidelines, I was skeptical that it would work as well as it did last spring, but especially with all the energy awards being a highlight of my practice. Doubts turned into excitement as the days approached with the first practice of the fall season. We were given individual bags and the girls had their own journals, which was perfect. It helped the girls adapt to the changing times and ensured our team's safety. I had more fun with the journals because it was easier for the girls to follow the lessons. Looking back on the past year and all that we went through, one moment sticks out the most. When COVID hit, I kept on getting phone calls from the parents asking when we will start. I decided to offer an in-person session because I wanted to give a sense of normalcy for the girls. I wanted to make sure that they will not lose everything that's already happened to them. I thought I was doing a good service for the girls, but I actually learned something. It was doing a good service for myself. I learned that I still do not like to run. I learned that although the world stops, that doesn't mean helping the community has to stop or your life has to stop. I learned that as long as we support each other, we could never lose.
Good morning. My name is Anaya Winfield. I am 10 years old and I'm a 5th grade student who goes to Newport Academy Charter School. I live with my mother, my brother, my sister, our cat, and my stepdad. My Girls on a Run journey started when Miss Kyra came up to my table at school and she said she was starting a new program that involves running. I was excited because it was only going to be a girl program and we also got free snacks. I love food. I was excited because it was only going to be the first few practices went great. We played games and listened to music while running our laps inside the gym. I learned a lot about myself and my friends. Then COVID-19 ended our season. I was really upset because at the end we planned to do our own pizza party with our family. This year I started virtual learning school, which I do not like. I miss seeing all my friends and going to school. Miss Kyra contacted my mom, said she was going to do Girls on a Run again. I was so excited because doing it during COVID, I was able to exercise and see my friends from the last season, just like in school. And we also got new girls to go on Girls on a Run. It also helped because I did not like staring at the screen all day, and Girls on a Run gave me a break from staring at the screen. This year I like the season about communication because when I get angry and upset, I yell and I want to hurt people in different type of ways, but not mentally. But this lesson taught me it was okay to yell, be angry, but instead of yelling, I just communicated by using my words. Coach Kyra and Coach Lizzie taught me when I yell, no one understands what I'm trying to say. But if I use the right voice level and speak clearly, people will understand. It really works. One of my favorite moments was when I got an injury award for helping motivate my team during practice's 5K this year. I got to pick the award I wanted. I picked the surfing one because it reminded me of the beach, and I love the beach. This year was just like last year. We weren't able to do the 5K due to COVID. COVID has changed a lot in my life, but one thing I know is Coach Kyra and my girls on a run team will always be there to help me and motivate me to be the best I can be.
I am not a runner. Let me repeat, I am not a runner. I honestly didn't even own my first pair of running shoes until I was nearly 30. So running just isn't part of my DNA. Challenges aside, I must say that I enjoy running so much because of how it makes me feel, but it is just one part of staying emotionally and physically fit. I also don't have kids. Yep, no little ones at home for me. However, I am an auntie to 2 beautiful nieces. So I'm not a runner, I'm not a mom, I'm not an educator or a coach of any kind, although I have the utmost admiration and respect for women who are all of those amazing things. So you might be wondering, what exactly am I doing here? And why would I get involved with an organization that is all about running, young girls, education, and coaching? Well, the answer is actually quite simple. I believe in the power of empowerment. And I believe that is truly what the Girls on the Run organization is all about. I also believe empowerment starts well before any of us walk a college campus or stand before a packed boardroom. I believe it starts when we're young girls. So much that ultimately sets a woman on a path to empowerment and confidence can be learned through athletics. Just think about it. Self-determination, perseverance, progressing forward on the best days, and more importantly, bouncing back with grace after the bad days. These are the lessons learned on the field, the sidewalk, and the track. And these are the lessons that open a young girl's eyes wide to the potential that comes with a joyful, confident, and healthy life. These are the lessons that empower and inspire. And I know you will all agree that every girl deserves access to these priceless life lessons. It might just be the one thing that sets her on the path to empowerment and success. I believe it did for me. I was the first woman in my family to attend and graduate from college. I'm the youngest VP of Brownstein Advertising and Public Relations. Now, none of this has been easy, but it has always seemed possible and just within my reach to create and achieve the success I envisioned. And I attribute that to self-determination, perseverance, and the absence of self-deservedness. These are the lessons I learned as a kid. And I had these experiences because I had access to sports programming and everything that comes with it. Positive role models, teammates, and the encouragement to achieve a goal. As I said, I was not a runner, but I was blessed to have the opportunities to play soccer and field hockey, to be a dancer and a gymnast. And while all of that was just fun for me, and quite frankly, a way to stay out of trouble while growing up in South Philly, I also learned one of the most important life lessons that I still carry with me today. And that is, it's not about how you start. It's about how you choose to finish. You finish with grace, poise, strength, pride, and if you're lucky, great people around you. This is also what our girls learn in GOTR's 10-week curriculum-rich program. It's also the lesson that Girls on the Run embraced head-on in 2020. It started on uncertain ground, as it did for all of us, but we finished stronger than ever. The pandemic changed our girls' reality. They lost so much, but with Girls on the Run, they didn't lose. Instead, they learned. Every single girl registered for the program in 2020 received the benefits of the GOTR lessons at home. That's right, 100% completion despite a global pandemic. In Philadelphia, we are committed to making sure that any girl who wants to can participate regardless of income. 68% of our over 500 girls each season receive scholarship assistance, and through your support, as well as private and government grants, we have not had to turn away anyone. At Girls on the Run Philadelphia, we are eager to meet those needs by maintaining our current sites, expanding to offer the program to new sites and girls, and expanding our scholarship support during this time of need. But really, this cannot happen without your help. Your contribution of $175 sponsors one girl for one season. A $350 contribution sponsors one girl for 1 year. A $1,500 contribution supports a team's t-shirts, snacks, and coach supplies for 1 year, which is 2 seasons. A $2,500 contribution fully supports a GOTR program for one site for a full year. $5,000 contribution fully supports a GOTR program for 2 sites for a full year. And a $10,000 contribution pays for training for our coaches. A $20,000 contribution lets us hold the 5K so runners can celebrate the culmination of the program. And finally, a $100,000 contribution allows us to hire 2 staff members so we can actually double our participants. So let us all remember the lesson of the day. It's not about how you start, it's about how you choose to finish. You might have started this day not believing you could impact Girls on the Run because you aren't a runner or an educator. But you are about to finish this morning realizing just how empowering and inspiring we are when we come together to help our girls. And on that note, it's a great pleasure to introduce one of the most inspiring journalists in our city. Please join me in welcoming Ronnie Polineski, editor of the Philadelphia Inquirer's Upside column, which is all about finding and celebrating good news and good stories throughout our city. Welcome, Ronnie.
Okay, great. Well, I just feel that I do need to say that following everybody, this is a really tough act to follow. And I really, really appreciate being here. Anyway, I'm going to start this morning's talk. And I have some notes here just because I'm not so much used to doing things at Zoom. I do it at a podium. Doesn't matter. But I'm going to start this talk about positivity, which is what I'm going to speak about today. And I'm going to talk first about storytelling. And I thought a lot about storytelling because I tell stories for a living. For more than 30 years now. I've been a journalist, and it's been an amazing way to make a living telling stories. But it is not a unique activity. All of us are storytellers. You're storytellers, I am, because telling stories to ourselves, to each other, to the world, it's how we make sense of the world. We always have. Since the time we were in, caves or sitting around fires, it's what we did. We told stories. And oftentimes we do it very unconsciously. We do have stories we tell ourselves or that we tell about other people. And we're not even aware that it's actually a story. We're like fish. It's just the water we swim in. And that comes down to something that can come down to just the smallest interactions every day. For a really mundane example, I'll just say that my husband and I have really different ideas about what makes for a clean kitchen. I have a story. He has a story. And when we get into little spats is when our stories clash. So just think about every interaction, every thought about something is actually a story, because all human interaction is grounded in story. Now, what separates me as a storyteller from other storytellers is that because I'm a journalist, I consciously ask 6 basic questions when I set out to tell a story for public consumption. And a lot of you might know them already. Here they are. There we go. It's who, what, when, where, why, and how. Now notice that these are questions that don't have a simple yes or no answer, which those questions obviously are helpful to, draw out some basic information. But who, what, when, where, why, and how, it broadens the response so that we can tell a broader, more complete story. Now, in my many years as a journalist, the stories that have stayed with me the most are about people who have known great hardship or great adversity. And they somehow have been able to broaden or transcend the basic, sad who, what, when, where, why, how facts about their story to transcend the circumstances that they've been in. And they end up with a very different story. And what is key to me is that they manage to do it in ways that don't feel like bullshit. It doesn't sound like they're just whistling past a graveyard. It's their news story. So I'm going to introduce you to a few people who I have met and written their stories over the years. So let's see. Whoops. Okay, where's my next slide? Wait, I'll mute myself. Oh, sorry.
If you click on the screen.
Yeah, okay, hold on 1 second. I'm so sorry. There we go. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, so right here, this was a young girl. She was 15 at the time, and her name is Maya Kazazic. Maya was just 15, and she was living in Mostar in Bosnia during the war. And she was playing in a courtyard when a rocket-propelled grenade went off in the courtyard, killing all 5 of her friends. She was gravely, gravely wounded. She eventually had to have one of her legs amputated in Mostar in a makeshift hospital with no anesthesia. Her other leg was very, very injured, and she was becoming infected, and it looked like she was going to die. thank God, a Good Samaritan was able to get her out of there, to get her to a hospital, and then eventually to get her to the United States. I don't know what's going on with this. I'm so sorry. Stop the share. I don't want to stop my share. Can you hear me, Kim?
Yep, you just click on the.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Oh, okay, I'm so sorry. Let me get back.
Or the arrows down on the bottom.
There we go. Is this working? All right. Okay. You know, I'm just going to have to hold on for 1 second. Okay. I'm good because I'm using a remote keyboard. Oh, I'm so sorry. Keyboard is off. Let's try this. There she is. Okay. Got it. Oh, please forgive me. And I hope I haven't lost momentum. Anyway, this is Maya today. And she lives in Florida, and she is a super successful businesswoman. And she told me about what she learned from that time after the war and its aftermath, is that hordes of good and decent people were rallying around her to try to be with her and comfort her, make sure that she didn't go through any of her 11 surgeries alone. They worked so hard to teach her English and to bring her family to America. And her incredible takeaway today is that she said the genocide in Bosnia and the aftermath of it taught her about the real meaning of love, commitment, and happiness. So that's Maya. Now let's see if I can please do the next screen. There we go. Okay, I got this. Okay, now this next screen, this picture on the top row there on the left, that's my sister Franny, her husband Adam, and their 2 sons. Now, just 7 months after this picture was taken, Franny died of cancer. I come from a gigantic family. There are 9 siblings, all married, all have kids, tons of cousins. And this was the worst thing that had ever happened to us. And we didn't know how we were going to get through it, let alone help Adam and the boys get through the worst loss of their lives. And then 2 years later, in his grief support group, Adam met a wonderful widow named Becky, who also had 2 children. And she had lost her husband, Chad. Well, she and Adam fell in love and they got married. And this is them on their wedding day. Now, I don't know if you can see it, but the love there between Adam's kids and Becky's kids, that is real. That is a real love and a real joy, which makes our hearts sing every day. Now, Becky and Adam and the kids will say that losing Franny and losing Chad is actually, was a terrible thing that happened. They will grieve their loss forever. That's a true thing. But what's also true is that their lives are now filled with new love and new and important people who never, ever would have been in their lives had the worst thing in the world never happened to them. All of it is true. And finally, in my roundup of stories, this is Evelyn Barnes. Now, Miss Barnes, when I met her, she was 90 years old. She had lived in Strawberry Mansion. Her house collapsed in a terrible rain. It had been a pretty dilapidated home. And afterward, her house was looted by salvagers or scavengers, I'm sorry. And they took everything. So she was living basically in a van because yes, she still drove. Someone finally got her to a Red Cross shelter, she and her daughter, but she was going to have to find a new place to live, and she had literally nothing. I wrote her story. Readers rushed forward and provided all kinds of linens and housewares and furniture, and my own colleagues in the newsroom did the same, while somebody from City Council found her this beautiful little apartment, this small, snug apartment in a converted schoolhouse that is warm and safe and dry. And these days, Miss Evelyn has a very different story. When I first met her, she said, I just never thought my life would end this way. Just all alone, homeless with nothing. Her story after all of this, she said, I think God wanted that house to fall down on me. He needed me to get out from under the burden of that house. And she also had a lot of children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren who she felt responsible for. And once the house fell down, she said, they really need to find their own way. And she said, I have never been this happy. That was a true thing that happened. Now, obviously, there's nothing like dire circumstances, like losing your leg, like losing a spouse, losing your home, to force life lessons on you. These are going to provide real sort of come to Jesus moments about what matters. And I'm sure most of us have had them. Still, these stories, I think they provide just really stark experiences. And especially when you frame them in the positive ways that people respond to them, I think it offers us a kind of template to use, maybe in smaller circumstances that don't necessarily feel life and death. I mean, it's often the life and death experiences that force us to grow and get a bigger story. But there are ways of doing that without having a life or death kind of specter, like breathing down our necks. So the thing is that we can apply who, what, when, where, why, and how to any situation to get a bigger and more complete story about whatever is causing us, aja or stress at the time. So let's start with what it's like to be in a situation that feels maybe that either felt or still feels a little uncomfortable. Maybe you can think of one of those now, just get it in your head. And just kind of hold it in the back of your mind as we go through this next little bit. And to get us started, I will share mine. It's personal, but we're all friends here, and it happened a long time ago, and we're good now. We're really good. So this is me, my husband, and our daughter when we were young parents. I was pretty young. And we belonged to, like a lot of young families, everywhere. We belonged to what developed into a village of families that included one family that we were very close to. Our daughters were just the best of friends. We ate leftovers in each other's kitchens. We babysat each other's kids over weekends, took them to parties, did carpooling, the whole thing. It was a beautiful village. And then, when our kids hit their teens, it wasn't too problematic, but, they became teenagers with whatever you might imagine that might be. But then in our situation, we went through a really horrific time when our daughter, when she was 13, was repeatedly assaulted by an older boy. And it threw our family into a tailspin for a while as we came to grips with what had happened, how it happened, how we could right this ship of our family. Those were really tough years, but we've gotten through to the other side of them, and we are really strong, really intact, and really great. And my daughter has spoken publicly about everything that happened to her, so I'm not telling tales out of school here. But I will say that during that difficult time, that one family with whom we had become very close pulled way, way back from us. Wouldn't really speak to us when I tried to find out what was going on. And eventually word sort of got back to us that they did not approve of how we were handling what had happened to our daughter. And since word had sort of gotten out, other people in the village sort of knew about this weird awkwardness, and it was heartbreaking. But what really had broken my heart was just that what had happened to my daughter, all I cared about was how do we get her through this. Now, so, we moved on. My daughter's now 24 and she's great. But for many years, I felt really badly about our former friends. The worst thing is that bad feeling. It was kind of resentfulness. Resentfulness, I think, was the biggest thing. The hardest thing is that it came up every time I went into the backyard because we can see their home from our home. So, and anytime I would go in the backyard, I would literally fill with resentment when I saw that house. I would feel that we had been judged. I had a story about that family. I had a story about how wrong they were and how self-righteous. But I didn't know what to do with that feeling. It was in the past. It was in the rear view mirror what had happened, and we were all fine, right? But what do I do with that? All I knew was that every time I went into the backyard, I felt like I was on red alert, just red alert. So I think that's how it can feel to us, right? We're on red alert because the story we're telling ourselves about that, using who, what, when, where, why, and how, is causing us some real emotional hardship. And we're really certain of it. And we're certain of it because what happened was true. Now we can try to negate that. We could try to do happy talk, get ourselves out of it, like, it's fine. It didn't matter, whatever. We can do all that. But if we do that too soon, even just to give ourselves some obvious relief, then we've wandered into what I call blue skies. We're in blue skies, which in my view is just another term for la la land or stupidity. Because there's nothing worse than being certain about something that has gone wrong, and it truly has, and having someone, including ourselves, try to talk us out of it. It's infuriating because we know the facts in the case. Now, in my case, I knew my friend had been cruel and unreasonable, my friends rather, and I couldn't begin to imagine what the blue skies aspect of that story would be. Except, this was bad news for me because I couldn't hold on to my resentment, except that we have to move into that blue skies area for just a bit if we are to begin to move the needle by adding one 4-letter word to who, what, when, where, why, and how. Add one 4-letter word to those words. Now, this is my favorite 4-letter word these days, and that is saying a lot because I'm a newsroom girl and we drop the F-bomb 10 times a day. But these days, my favorite 4-letter word is this one. Else. Else. When we use this word, when we add else, the hard, clear edges between that red, hot red alert and that weird blue skies, halo around it, that hard line between them begins to soften into kind of like a purple, just to use a visual here. So we have to go into that blue skies part that we think of as denial, but maybe that's just giving a hint that there's something else happening here that maybe could help us tell a bigger and more helpful story. So when we ask, who else, what else, when, where, why, how else, we don't negate what is true inside that red alert circle. We just expand it to see if there isn't a broader, more dynamic, and actually a more complete story about what's happening. And the news story we tell ourselves contains all of it. And by expanding our story, we balance that red alert and the blue skies to create a story of more possibility, more nuance, more hope, and more truth. And as we begin to rewrite our story by broadening it, we actually rewrite our lives. There we go. We rewrite our lives. And that's what happened when I started finally to ask myself, what else was true about what happened with our friends? And when I realized what was true is that they were just scared. They were scared that my daughter, who was struggling, would be a bad influence on their own daughter, for whom they had very high expectations. And those expectations were part of some cultural pressures that I know that they sometimes struggled themselves to live up with. And it was actually too much to ask them to still be friends with us if they felt that it would risk their daughter's well-being. And what else is true is that they're not very good at confrontation. The only one time I ever had sort of an issue and, went to them, there was a lot of tears. They're not the kind of people who show much vulnerability. And someone like that is not going to initiate a conversation and perhaps not be open to one either. And at the same time, I knew that reluctance, because I knew of their backgrounds, really kind of came from some of their own upbringing, right? We take that stuff with us, I'm one of 9 children from a big Catholic family. I feel like I've got all the good stuff of that and a lot of the baggage. And that was what therapy was for. We bring all of that, right? So maybe I could extend the same graciousness to others, knowing that we all carry some bags. Now, once I realized that, it became easier to forgive them for just ghosting us. In that blue zone, I was able to acknowledge all the ways that this beautiful family had contributed to the village that helped me grow and feel confident as a new parent for over a decade, more than a decade, through some, scary new years. There was so much joy, so much connection, so much love. That part is just as true as them needing to pull back. And one day when I was out back and I could see their house, I just decided, you know what? I think we're all doing the best we can. And I decided that one day, if I ever do see them again and the time is right, I just want to hug them. And I want to say thank you. Thank you for everything. And I think we all did the best we could. Now, notice how when we talk about I'm sorry, let me go back up. When we talk about all wrong and all right, notice how the word all right just feels calmer. If you say, someone says, how you doing? You go, all right. It has an even positivity to it, right? There's no big sharp highs or downs. There's a movement to it and a lightness. Now, lest you think I'm playing with you with all this stuff I'm saying here today, let me say that it can be really hard to do, because there is a certainty in that red zone that can be addicting. Even if we don't like it, we can get very comfortable within it, because at least we know we're right. There is a great feeling about being right. But to get to that calmer blue sky sliver that can soften our red alert into a place of purple, love that analogy, we need to suspend our judgments. We need to suspend our right to be right just momentarily, so that we can see what our judgments are keeping us from seeing, so we can get the whole story. Now, I have a confession, which is that when I start to talk like this, and I've talked like this for quite a while, people accuse me of being a Pollyanna, as if I'm some cockeyed optimist who doesn't have the brain cells to see the real truth in front of me. What I always tell them is that an optimist, a real optimist, isn't someone blind to the truth. A real optimist optimizes the facts in front of them, the truths that they see. They optimize them. They optimize the situation, and by doing that, they are better able to optimize a situation that might otherwise throw them off kilter. So they seek to learn all of the facts of a situation, not just the ones that maybe frighten or upset them. And that gives them a lot more choices about how to live. Now, research in positive psychology really supports this. And if you want to dig deeper into this, you could look into the work of a woman named Barbara Fredrickson. She created a theory called broaden and build, which suggests that positive emotions, for example, happiness, joy, interest, anticipation, they broaden a person's awareness, and they encourage novel, varied, and sort of outside the box ways of thinking, which then can inspire different thoughts and actions. And over time, this broadened behavioral repertoire, it can build skills and resources that actually become more habitual. So we can just begin to change. And that can lead to a kind of resilience that results in better coping, increased health, and even a longer life. So this stuff is no Pollyanna joke. It's real, and it can have a real impact on strengthening human resilience. Asking who, what, when, where, why, and how, and adding that word else when you think you have all the answers already is just one tool to help you get there, by widening our range of choices about how we view and cope with life's challenges. Now, I can think of no better story to close this presentation with than this one about a woman I interviewed named Kathy Bressler. Kathy is a nurse who is also a very capable and beloved hospital executive in the Midwest. She had recently, when I interviewed her, she had recently been diagnosed with breast cancer. And I was writing about what it was like for her to be in the bed instead of outside of the bed helping someone else. In that interview, Kathy told me the story about how she was in agonizing pain in the first days after her bilateral mastectomy. She was worried sick about these wounds that would not close, which they needed to do if she was going to have chemo. And so it was postponing her chemo. And she was worried about what that would do for her long-term survival. So she just had these thoughts in her head, and she thought, I have to scrub these thoughts out. So she literally said, I'm going to get a shower and just try to scrub the thoughts out of my head. So she climbed in the shower, and it wasn't going well. She had drains coming out of her chest. She was weak. She was still in pain. And so her daughter, who I think was about 24, 25 at the time, said, I'll help you. And she was trying to help her from outside, didn't work. So her daughter stripped down to her underwear, climbed in, and helped her mother get a shower and wash her hair. This is Kathy and her daughter. Now, Kathy, when she told me this story, she was so filled with love and pride. And I'm going to tell you verbatim what she said. She said, there I was, naked and hunched over and pathetic, in pain, like a little broken bird. And my daughter was taking care of me. It was the most tender, sweet act of love. Kathy said the cancer is hideous, but fighting cancer had yielded something precious, a moment of beautiful love and tender caring between her and her daughter. And she told me, and this is verbatim, that moment is just as real as the negative ones. And if I didn't have cancer, I never would have known that moment. Talk about broadening your story. And I'm happy to say that Kathy today, years later, is fully recovered and she's just rocking and rolling, heading a hospital in the Midwest. I think stories like Kathy's and moments like this, I think they're possible for all of us, depending on how willing, you got to be willing to tell bigger, more complete stories about ourselves and about others. So by expanding our stories beyond who, what, when, where, why, how, and even being conscious that those are questions that we've already answered without knowing we were asking them. Ask those questions, add the word else, broaden it. You can move out of that black and white, either or, red alert, blue skies, polar opposite world into a beautiful purple world of possibility. So thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you most of all for all that you do for Girls on the Run. You're a terrific organization and it's been a thrill to get to know you.
Wow, what an amazing way to kick off our morning. Thank you so much, Ronnie. Thank you to our other speakers. Thank you to our sponsors. And thank you to all of you for believing in the limitless potential of our girls. We hope to see you at our virtual 5K, which kicks off later this month and runs through June 6th. I wish you all a wonderful morning, and I hope that you're leaving feeling inspired. Thank you.